We're past time here getting started, so try to find the last seat you can find. Bob and Joan have asked me to welcome every one of you here to this service today. And they also want to thank you for your thoughts, your expressions, cards, and prayers. And we thank you for taking the time to share in this gathering about Donny's life. Let us pray. Father, we come to you with hearts that are heavy. We don't understand sometimes why these things happen. But God, in your goodness, in your love, and your mercy, you bring us through these situations. Thank you for every person that's here, because we all love Donny. Be with the service today. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Mano de la mano watch us from above.
Non troviamo.
We hope it's so we'll find.
Interno dentro sé.
Another soul to love.
Let this be our
prayer. Let this be our prayer.
just like every child.
Just like every child.
Need to find a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. E la fede c'è, higher source in you. Sento Gesù
This afternoon's scripture is from 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, and with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First, the believers who have died will rise from their graves. Then, together with them, we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. So, encourage each other with these words.
I was asked to read the beautiful tribute that was posted online by the Shumway family. In loving memory of Donny. With heavy hearts, we share the news of our beloved Donny. Donald Robert Shumway Jr. has left us too soon. Born on November 22nd, 1971, Donny brought so much joy, love, and warmth to everyone around him. He never met a stranger. Donny loved his Seattle sports teams, the Seahawks, the Thunderbirds, the Mariners, the Kraken. His passion for sports was only rivaled by his love for NASCAR, especially cheering on Casey Kane. He was an outdoorsman at heart, finding peace and excitement in halibut and salmon fishing. The open water was his happy place. A proud graduate of Auburn Adventist Academy, where Donny met lifelong friends, a testament to his fun-filled nature. He went on to continue in his parents' footsteps, owning Shareway Industries with his trusted partner, Justin Shumway. He led a fulfilling career where he contributed to groundbreaking projects related to heavy infrastructure, commercial space commerce, NASCAR and other racing, and many others. His charisma and management style left a lasting impact on all who had the privilege of working with him. Music was another big part of Donny's life. He loved playing the harmonica and singing, filling his home with tunes that will always be in our hearts. He had a jam band with his friends, more of an excuse for time with the guys, but it brought him so much joy. Above all, Donny was a loving son and a friend. loving son and friend. His kindness, generosity, and infectious enthusiasm for life touched everyone he met. He had a unique gift for making people feel cherished and valued. His legacy of love, laughter, and passion will live on in all our memories. We find comfort in knowing Donny is at peace now, surrounded by the eternal love of God. He leaves behind his parents, Bob and Joan Shumway, and countless family members and friends who will always hold him in their hearts. Rest easy, Donny. Your light will forever shine in our hearts.
it's now time for you to share your memories of Donny. We have a mic over here and one with me. Who would want to talk first? I could tell a lot of stories, but you don't want to hear mine, so.
So I find myself trying to quantify what was Donny to me. Well, started out as a cousin, then he became a neighbor, then a playmate, then an older kid to look up to, and then a friend, a hunting partner, fishing partner, although that's not quite right. He was a guide. I never once brought a rod or a reel or anything to the party. I might have pitched in on fuel and that was it. A roommate, a landlord, a coworker, season ticket partner, business partner. Somewhere along the way, he became my brother. So it would have started in about 1981. I was 4, he was 9. You know, he had the awesome bedroom, a loft and a fire pole of all things, an Atari, a pool table, a mini bike, at one point a pony. And it wouldn't have been appropriate probably, but I have 8mm footage of Bob in his 40s trying to get that pony to move while he's riding it and mostly just getting bucked around. Totsy, didn't last long. And then finally, the huge satellite dish and MTV. But Donny didn't need any of that stuff to draw me in, to draw anyone in. He was exciting to be around. He was funny. He was loud. Everything about him was loud. If you tried to camp in a truck camper for the weekend or some confined space, he was the only one getting sleep. That snore was like no other. That's right. And he was mischievous. He was so fun to be around that somehow he made doing chores fun. And I would often find myself as a kid rushing through to get my chores done so I could run up and hang out with Donny. Which brings me to my first funny story. So we shared as kids a Honda 110 three-wheeler. Totally dangerous mechanical device. Big giant balloon tires, square tread, and we shared it and we rode it all the time. And on this particular hot summer afternoon, all us kids, me and Jeff and Jill and Donny, thought that instead of doing our chores like we were supposed to do, we should ride the three-wheeler. But of course, we were forbidden from riding the three-wheeler when the parents weren't home or before our chores were through. But breaking the rules was kind of our thing. So we found ourselves riding the three-wheeler around, and because it was a hot day, somebody got the bright idea to grab a hose and a nozzle and to spray whoever was on the three-wheeler. Probably because they'd been on there too long hogging it, you know, not sharing it. And so as that went on, we switched on and off, and the mission was, or the game was, to go around in a circle and do laps around the house. And the person on the bike was supposed to go as fast as they could and dodge and duck and weave and try to avoid the stream of water. The person with the hose, it was their job to soak that person to the best of their ability. And everyone switched on and off. And finally, I think it might have been my turn, and I think Donny was on the hose. And I think some water went up my nose. And I think I got a little sore about it. But then the shoe was on the other foot, and Donnie was on the three-wheeler, I was on the hose, and it was my turn to get him back. And by some luck, I was on that day. He came around the corner at full speed, and I hit him right between the eyes. And as he arced around the backyard, I stayed with him, and I led him, and that stream of water just stayed right in his face. And I was getting back everything he might have given and more. And for once, the younger cousin was, getting one over on him. And I felt really good about that for a second. But then, for some reason, the three-wheeler was coming right for me. But so excited I was to be nailing him in the face with the water that all I noticed was that he was no longer moving in a way that was hard to hit. He was just getting bigger. The target was getting bigger. And I left on him just as hard as I could until pretty soon I noticed I was laying on my back in the grass, looking up at the clear blue sky, wondering exactly what had happened, and rolled over to find Donnie climbing off the three-wheeler in the flower bed a few feet from the back of the house. We quickly realized we'd sort of dodged a bullet, and we agreed that on pain of death, we wouldn't tell any of the adults. Myself included, even though you might have thought of me as a victim, but no. We might even have put a little gasoline back in the tank to make sure that when the parents got home, they didn't notice that we'd ridden the bike while they were gone. And to this day, I'm not clear whether the water in his face caused him to not be able to see, and he ran me right over, or if the water was irritating him and he could see just good enough to run me right over. Either way, Donnie went back home up to Bob and Jones. Me and Jeff and Jill went into the house, and our mom came home to cook dinner, and we all just kept our distance. And pretty soon Dad came home from work, and we all kept our distance. We made it through dinner. No one broke. No one said a word. But pretty soon it was bedtime, and I was young enough then still that there must have been a story or something. Some reason my dad was in close enough to proximity to notice my face, and he said, "What are all these red square marks on your neck, your cheek, your ear, and your forehead? It looks like the tread of the three-wheeler." And of course, the jig was up, and no one really got in too much trouble, but we lost our privileges on the three-wheeler for a little while. So on we go from there, and Don hits high school, too cool for school. I was still too young, playing with action figures and whatnot. He was driving cars and chasing girls. And somewhere at this point, he met Johnny Gordon and Ben Jackson, and those two clans took him under his wing. And showed Donnie the ropes to hunt and fish. Now, for those of you who aren't outdoorsmen, you must understand hunters and fishermen don't accept anybody new unless they're vetted, because you don't want new people coming to your spot and catching your fish, right? Yeah, that's right. So the person must be trusted. They must be known not to tell anyone about the secret spots. And Donnie would have been an outsider at first, but for anyone that knows Donnie, he's only an outsider for as long as it takes to finish the first conversation with him. And you're in. He's in, I should say. And thanks to the Gordons and the Jacksons for taking him. Under their wing, and to give Dawn and myself something that we shared for a lifetime. And then, of course, thanks to Donnie already having the inn, I got to ride on his coattails and got to learn the ropes as well, and I'm forever grateful. So that brings us around. Now we're past high school, and we'll say we're at 2005, I think it is. And this is a hunting story. Don and I and Johnny Gordon and Chris Brown decided we were going to do a pack trip into the Passaitan wilderness. So this is where you hire a guy with horses and mules to carry all your stuff up, set up the tent with you, and leave you alone for a week. And hopefully you have a good time. And, in this case, it was mule deer that we were after. So this is a steep trail. This is not where you find hikers. These are for horses. These are giant boulders. It's a 45-degree grade most of the time, 19 miles, which doesn't sound like much, but it took the better part of the day. And unbeknownst to me, there was something going on with Donnie's saddle or his pants or something that was rubbing him a little raw. We get there, we set up the tent, we look around to these beautiful surroundings, and Donnie looked a little uncomfortable. And I don't know if he was uncomfortable physically with the pain he was suffering or uncomfortable psychologically for what he was about to ask us to do. And he said, gentlemen, I was getting chafed a little bit there that whole time, and I think, maybe can somebody take a look at it? And so it would have only taken one of us to look at it and render a diagnosis, but of course, all three of us stood there looking at the train wreck that was the biggest blister I've ever seen. It was the size of a silver dollar, probably a little bit bigger. And there was a lot of speculation about what to do with it, how to handle it. We were gonna be there for a week. Did we have the right first aid kit for that kind of thing? We weren't sure. So the next morning we decide, well, we have to go hunting. That's what we're here to do. And Don goes to put on his hunting pants and he says, this ain't happening. I'm gonna be the camp chef, today at least. And for those of you who hunt, you know that it's not camp chef, there's a different word, but it's, yeah. And so the rest of us go out, it had snowed overnight and then rained and then frozen. It was horrible, horrible conditions for hunting. And we quickly gave up and came back and found ourselves playing cribbage for most of the day. And Donnie, if you know him, he likes to say words that don't really make sense in place of words that do, and then use that over and over for 6 to 8 weeks or 3-4 months until everyone around him is saying the same thing, and it becomes a dialect in and of itself. So in this case, he took to calling his blister his turkey. And there was a lot of talk of the turkey. Should we pop the turkey? Should we find salve for the turkey? If the packer came back to check on us, should we ask him to go get medicine for the turkey? And I'm going to say that the word turkey was spoken at least 600,000 to 700,000 times throughout that trip and the ensuing 6 months. And that's just one of the things that I describe as a word of a week. Word of the week. So, Don and I were business partners for 24 and a half years. I take that back. Co-workers first and then business partners, but for a combined total of 24 and a half years. We never once raised our voice at each other. And Dawn, when the good Lord shows you the instant replay of this memorial, I want you to see the standing room only in the back. And I would say, I hope we did you proud, but it's not about us. It's about you, and you did yourself proud. Look at this eclectic group of people. Hopefully, when he shows you the instant replay, he has the soundtrack of the NFL films going in the background just for fun. And Don, we're going to miss you dearly.
My name's Natalie Pershel Benson, and I first met Donnie at Auburn Adventist Academy, working in the kitchen. I showed up my junior year, 15 years old, scared to death, homesick every single day, but I worked in the kitchen, and Donnie was one of my very first friends. And from that time on, he was my best friend. And we did a lot of stuff together, And he was always there when I needed him. He showed up at my wedding. He drove all night, came over to my wedding, stayed. And every time I'd come back into town, because I live in Arizona now, but every time I come back into town, we meet at Donnie's house. He was the glue that held all of us together, and he will be missed.
I've been fortunate. I fished a little over 51 years in Straits of Juan de Fuca. My wife and I moved up there in 93, and before then, we fished Pillar Point. In 93, we started fishing CQ. In 96, Donnie bought his first boat. Well, Karen and I had fished Monday through Friday. Donnie would come up to our house on Friday night, stay there Friday night, Saturday night, and fish. If he had somebody, they'd go out and fish. If he didn't have anybody, Karen and I'd go out with him. I'd run the boat, Karen and him would fish. Well, I got 3 memories that, I've seen things come and go that you can't imagine on the water. I have 3 memories of him that was just absolutely beyond belief. So the first one, we go out on a Saturday morning. I'm running a boat, and Karen and Don are fishing. All of a sudden I hear him, I got one. We net it, it's illegal, it's a native. I got one, it's illegal, it's a native. I got one, it's illegal, it's a native. I got one, it's illegal, it's a native. Okay, they caught 26 fish that were all native that we had to throw back, and the 27th fish they were able to keep. And I hounded him about it, right? And they ended up getting a 6th fish because I'd punch it too, even though I wasn't fishing. The second one, this is absolutely true, and I know some of you are going to say, yeah, right, John. Donnie comes up, and Mike Childers is with him, wants to go halibut fishing. So I go out with him, and I'm running a boat, and Donnie and Mike are fishing. And we're in about 240 feet of water, thereabouts, and we're going along, and I hear Mike, I'm hooked up, and he's jerking on the rod and jerking on the rod and jerking on. I try to get him to slow down a bit, and he's just yarding on it, and all of a sudden he breaks the line. And then he gets mad and sits down in a chair, and we go a little bit further, and because I have to tie him up because they didn't know how to tie lines at that time. So I put the boat in neutral, and we're floating, and I'm dealing with Mike Childers' rod, and Donnie's reeling in, and I turn and look, and lo and behold, there's a line on Donnie's hook. So I go to the back of the boat, I grab this line, and I start wrapping it around my hands, right? And this is Polypro. It's about probably 80-pound test line. And I'm wrapping it around my hands, and wrapping around my hands, and wrapping around my hands. By this time now, I got a ball of line, and I mean a ball of line. Because Mike was at 240 feet deep, and I tell Donnie, I said, Donnie, I think something's on here. Oh, yeah, right, John. Sure it is. And I keep going. And I look down, and I said, there it is. It's color, man. It's a halibut. And Donnie looked down. He said, oh, my God. I said, grab a gaff, man. Grab a gaff. At this time, I can't move my hands because I'm bound up in line. Donnie grabs a gaff. Boom. He misses it the first time the gaff bounced. I said, come on, Don. You got to gaff him. And he's fighting me, and I'm in the boat just bouncing back and forth. Second time he gets him, pulls him up, and he's got the head over the gunnel. And this is no joke. He looks at me and he says, what do I do? I said, throw the fish in the boat, for God's sake. I got him on the line, and my hands I can't do anything with. I can't do that. The fish flips off. Somehow the hook came out. I look at him, and I said, you got to be kidding me, Don. You got to be kidding me. The fish is about, I'd say, in my estimation, somewhere between 60 and 80 pounds. And I'm just flabbergasted, right? The third one is probably the best I've ever seen in my life of any fish. Friday night, Johnny Gordon and Don show up at the house. So, and I'd fished all week, and so the next morning they both want to go fishing. So I go on out with them, and I'm running the boat. The two of them are fishing. And I don't know what time in the morning, it's probably 11 o'clock or so, it might be different, but we're going along. All of a sudden, Johnny says, I'm hooked up. And he's got a Winona reel that I used for years too, and now I finally got my brain fixed and went to a good reel. But, Johnny was bullheaded, as all of you know. It's a 1-to-1 reel, so you got it real fast, and you got to be on top of it, man. And so he's reeling, and I turn around and look, and I could tell it was a good fish, and I didn't know how big, but I knew it was a big fish. The next thing I know, man, this fish comes out of the water, honest to God, 3 feet out of water, just splash. And I said, Johnny, that's a hell of a fish, man. And so he keeps reeling, and it starts coming at the boat. So let's jump one time, right? The next thing, boom, it's up, same thing. Second time, boom, third time, boom, the fourth time. And it's coming, it's probably from maybe me to 25, maybe 30 feet behind the boat. And I said, Johnny, that fish is coming right at the boat. It's coming. And I said, that fish is going to jump in the boat, man. I said, it's going to jump in the boat. That fish came out of the water the 6th time, jumped over both motors, hit the water, it's off and running. Johnny landed it. Lo and behold, he had to turn it loose because it was a native. And I figured the fish was about 32 pounds. You think Johnny Gordon wasn't mad? And Donnie was right there with him, man, just screaming and yelling. Great memories, great individual. Unbelievable appreciation of the water, the sunrises. I mean, he was the ultimate. I mean, there wasn't nothing that Donny Shumway did not appreciate about us on the Straits of Juan de Fuca. I love you, Donnie. Rest in peace, and I'll meet you on the far side, buddy.
See how this goes. A lot of you know Randy Bollinger. There's been so much reflection over the last life, technically, but in these last 8 to 10 weeks, and then especially the last 2 weeks, just memories and thoughts, just one after the other. And, I knew that at some point I was going to have to put some things down on paper. Otherwise, everything would just be scattered. So I did. And as I was thinking about how to say something, about Donnie, about my experiences with Donnie, the brotherhood that extends to so many of the people in this room, the Gassers, the Gordons, the Jacksons, so many more. Hildy, the brotherhood and sisterhood that the way that we grew up afforded us is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. And Donnie was a hub. I've talked to so many people over the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if one person talked to one person and somebody said hub. Everybody talks about the hub. Natalie just said the glue. He was the hub for so many different school generations of people, just so many different people, so many, like Justin referenced, eclectic groups. He had that ability. As I pondered things, I realized I've had a lot of firsts with Donnie. First time I met Donnie was in '84. The Adventist school, so Enumclaw over here, came down to Buena Vista, where Johnny, Ben, and myself, as well as a bunch of others, were going. And Reed, Chris Cassingham, and Donnie were over here. And they'd come down once a year. And, I don't know, get together, we played sports and whatnot. And the thing that I remember most when meeting Donnie was playing volleyball. And I remember thinking, we had a pretty good class and we were pretty solid. And I was like, we're going to clean them up. And then all of a sudden I see on the other side, Donnie smacking the ball, spiking it like it was like there was no tomorrow. And I was like, we got our hands full here. I don't remember who won, honest truth. That's how it's supposed to be in sports, right? No, it's always a winner. I went to my first race with Donnie. We were kids. I know Donnie asked Bob and Joan if he could bring me to the race, and they got a ticket. And the way work ethic was always big to the Shumways. And Bob had Donnie and I go down to Sherway. That was my first introduction to Sherway, and clean the chips on the manual side, clean the chips out of all the bins, sweep up the floors and whatnot. Little did I know at that point I would end up back there as a career sweeping chips, and I'll speak to that a little bit more later. My first steelhead, my first salmon, my first deer, Donnie was all there. I think Ben and Johnny both were definitely there as well. Could have been some others. The first time I ever witnessed someone golfing in an entire round, 18 holes of golf with just a 9-iron and a putter, was with Donnie, and yes, it was Donnie, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a first and last with Donnie. My first lesson in gears was with Donnie in his Barracuda. I didn't realize that you could wait so long in third gear to shift to fourth. And I know exactly where that speedometer was when he shifted into fourth, but we won't talk about that. But that's when I got my first lesson, of which again goes into Shareway as well. Music was always a huge thing. Like the beautiful piece that was written, Justin referenced. That same bedroom that Justin talked about with that loft and that fire pole, although by the time I got there, spending nights, that fire pole was removed. I'm not sure if Donnie got stuck or something and they decided it was time to take it down or outgrew it. But anytime Donnie was doing anything, it's been referenced already, there was noise in the house and music. And I know Pink Floyd songs today that I consciously probably never heard awake, because he would play music on repeat over and over and over, and I'd wake up in that loft. It seems like to the same song so many times. Music, yeah, working at Shareway, break room, Alan Hyatt, Steve Crow. Others would take break in there. Alan and Steve would sing. Donnie chime in. I think I chimed in here and there, maybe not, but great memories at Shareway within music as well. Notorious B.I.G., believe it or not. Biggie, 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 can't you see? That song took us to Manzanita Speedway in Phoenix. Casey Kane fast-tracked his senior year and had enough credits to leave school in January so that he could run a full season with the World of Outlaws. And it was Willie Cole, Casey, and Shannon. So it was kind of a skeleton crew when he was starting out. If any of you know Casey's career, it didn't take him long. I think he got a crew chief that exact trip. But Donnie and I had the privilege to be able to fly to Phoenix and wrench on the car. It's a glorified word for scraping mud, running tires, changing tires. But still, and both Donnie and I knew that story would probably take a cooler shape as Casey continued in his racing career. My favorite guitar solo was with Donnie, that I still love to this day. I was with Donnie in the back of Hildy's Bronco up at the Bones Farm in Walla Walla. And when I hear that song, I still get chills, quite frankly, when I hear that guitar solo. And it always takes me right back to that night at Bones Farm. There was, I think Pete was in there, Bob Lange, so many friends that touched Donnie's life, that Donnie touched their lives, that we all just have amazing memories. I had the privilege of sitting in my brother's front room with Troy Sprague, Porter, and Donnie doing harmonies to Wagon Wheel that they used to. I'm pretty sure Wagon Wheel is the one song that they played more than any other. And they had it down pretty darn good. They had great harmonies, and I was blessed to be able to take part in that, and actually didn't hurt the song too much by the time we'd rolled through the chorus 40 times or better, looped over and over. It was super fun. Vehicles, growing up in the Shumway family, vehicles were always a cool thing, those Barracudas. A large portion of my friendship with Donnie, we spent tons of time on the road, driving to Walla Walla, driving to concerts, sprint car races, fishing, hunting. You know, that Barracuda has a special place in my heart that'll never be taken away. His Bronco. Donnie and I lived together for 10 years. He was a landlord and a roommate as well. How many people were roommates with Donnie at some point in here? Tommy, there he is. Tommy and I were there. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah, I saw you back there. Johnny and Bob, I think, Langy. Yeah, so every time I'm in, literally driving anywhere in Washington, I can look over and see Donnie's face up and down the I-5 corridor, eastern Washington to Walla Walla, Tri-Cities, Yakima, Wenatchee, all that area. I mean, whether it was his Cuda or sprint cars in the Bronco, his Dodge, his red Dodge, he had two Dodges. His red Dodge, we'd drive back and forth to Shareway. And he'd play Metallica, he'd blare Metallica in the morning. We'd get up at 4:30. Our shift was 5 to 3:30. Kirby sitting in here. Kirby was my supervisor. That was an early morning shift, and Donnie would crank Metallica. And I'm like, it's too early for this heavy, heavy music. But it was awesome. His green Dodge that's now white, I got memories in that. I'm fortunate to have a few memories in his Westphalia too. I drove it out to Troy Sprague's wedding and actually drove it to a couple concerts. That's the funny thing is, as most of us, if not all of us know, Donnie didn't see super well the last 10 plus years maybe, but he always had cool vehicles. Always, to this day, still. They were a big part of his life. Big part of memories, lots of memories. Lots of memories. Donnie's intertwined in my life and always will be. God puts people in our lives and uses them to help execute a path and a plan that we don't even realize. And it's been over 20 years now. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I think everything happens for a reason. We might not always know why, but next to my wife, my family, Donnie, Bob, and Joan have impacted my life more than any three other people in such a positive way. Because I met Donnie, I have the career that I have today. Because I knew Donnie, I ended up at Bob and Joan's house to help Donnie move some firewood for Bob and Joan. I noticed out there was a bunch of rounds that weren't split yet. And so, being that I'd split tons and tons of firewood, actually gassers are the reason for that. Thanks a lot, just kidding. Great memories of my life too. I said, hey, Bob, where's your splitting maul? And I threw those rounds up in a circle just like I was taught and had done hundreds of times before. And I popped those rounds and made pretty short order of them. And that, for some reason, Bob saw something in that he liked. And he called Bruce Sprague. I was roofing for Bruce Sprague at that point. And he called Bruce out of respect, which just speaks to the character of the Shumway family, including Donnie, obviously, and asked Bruce if it would be okay if he offered me a job. Thought there'd be a good career path in that. Boy, howdy, were you right. Bruce said, yes, thank goodness. I don't think I've ever thanked Bruce. I don't know if he's here. If not, I know it'll get back to him, but God bless all of our construction workers, but I am pretty grateful that I don't have to do that today. So I went to work at Shareway, sweeping chips. Quickly got pulled into the gear lab, the gear shop. Jeff Kirby was my boss, taught me a ton about gears. That's when I first realized, okay, there is something to this math thing. Math is the universal language. I didn't pay attention in school, but yeah. Because I worked at Shareway, it got me into inspection, quality assurance, checking the parts, using physical dimensional tools. That led me to a job A handful of years later, 2003, a company called On-Site Calibration. And that's the reason I got that job, was because of my experience at Shareway. I didn't really think about this, honestly, a little side note, until just these last couple of weeks. But that job at On-Site took me to Portland and actually reconnected me with my now wife, Christy. So you can see how knowing Donnie has been just amazing, but you can see how he's in and around pretty much for me, every piece of my life, with Bob and Joan too. I just can't, words can't even say. It truly, truly can't. Proverbs 17:7 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Donnie was such a great friend and such a great brother. In closing, Donnie, I hope that you now know the ridiculous of that 1st and goal stand on the 1-yard line in Super Bowl 49 and why Tom Brady and Will McGinnis, who I think is here, deserve to win that Super Bowl more than us. I love you, brother, and I cannot wait to see your smiling face again, man.
Hello, y'all. I don't know how many of y'all know me. I'm Guy LeClaire. To all those that who don't know me, those that you do, beware. It has been mentioned up here several times with Shareway. I spent a few months there. I think it works out to be about 340, somewhere around there. But kind of getting back to where Justin was with Donnie's sense of humor. You know, at Shareway, we had a lot of nicknames. Donnie was either Lumpy or Heavy D, and you can figure that out. But we also, let's start off, anybody that has experience at Shareway, could you stand up for a second? There we go. While I was sitting there and I was listening to Justin, I thought one experience came to mind, because I know that a lot of us had nicknames. Many of them can't be used here, like Randy's. Fortunately, Donnie's could. Heavy D and Lumpy, we can use that. But I remember another nickname, Bubba Dave. He's here. I saw him a few minutes ago. I was out on a forklift unloading a truck. Had a large bar, and I was struggling with it a bit. And at Shareway, it was kind of a standard prank that you would get told to go ask somebody for a chrome connoter clamp. Well, in this instance, Bubba Dave sent him out. I was on the forklift, and he came up to me and he asked me, he said, Dave needs to know if you've got any chrome connoter clamps. And for some reason, I thought up a good reaction. I said, shoot, Donnie, no, I don't. I only have the black ones. I said, so go ask him if that will work. So he ran back off, and I'm busy working on the forklift. And a few minutes later, he comes back, and he's like, no, Dave said that only the chrome one will work. And so then I busted out laughing. I said, haven't you got it yet, brother? And so then he got it, but he took it well. I mean, this was the kind of things that we did. And so to you, Heavy D.
Any more questions? Or any more thoughts and stories?
I just have to say a word or two. We did get a lot of work done at Shareway, but there was a lot of good times too. But you know, Randy, when he met Christy, something happened. And I thought, what in the world's happened to this guy? I think he's gone crazy, you know. And they decided to get married down in Portland. And they had a wedding's wedding, I'll tell you what. Bob was the pastor at that time, and Randy had asked me to get up and say a few things about them when he got married. And I thought, Randy, nobody's ever done that before. What are you talking about? So anyhow, he finally talked me into it, he and Christy, and I love him to this day. He's like another son. I have a lot of sons in this room. Guy Leclerc. So I practiced this little talk that I was going to give before the wedding started. So I got up front and I thought, man, oh man, this is going to be easy, you know. Well, it wasn't easy. But I said, Randy, where did you find this lady? She's fantastic. She likes football. She likes sprint cars. She outfished all of us at CQ. She just beat us to a pulp. And I said, Randy, where did you find this lady? Maybe you could find one for my son, you know, that likes sprint cars and likes football, likes the crazy things that we men do. Hey, Randy, is there another Christy out there for Donnie? We've had this relationship now all these years. You know, it's tough to lose a son, but it's also tough for many of you that have gone through grief. But to see this group of people that are here, Donnie always liked a good party. And I'll tell you what, I'm so proud that you're all here. I want to thank my cousin for putting together the program. Roger Rusted. Our mothers were sisters. His father was my mother's sister. Brother, I'm saying. I'll get it right sooner or later. But anyhow, you know, he put this program together on real short notice, and then he walks in the door. He and his wife drove up here. Roger, my family will always be grateful for the fine presentation. All of you that took the time to come, I can't tell you how Joan and I feel about it. Perhaps all the Kleenexes and all the rest of it as you walked in are an indication of how much I appreciate all of you. All of my Shareway family, especially Justin. Justin, at an early age, he loved to do the equipment. He loved production. Rick Mungle said he was the fastest learner on a CNC lathe of anybody he had ever been. So Justin just worked his way up, and I said to Joan one day, this kid has got it. I said, his business sense is fantastic. We should just turn all the finance stuff over to him. Well, look what's happened. He and Donnie were great partners for many years, but Donnie always regretted that he couldn't give as much as Justin could. But at the same time, Justin, you told me that Donnie was like a brother. And I'll tell you what, I have a lot of brothers and sisters in this room. And thank all of you for being here. Love you all.
I just wanted to add to that, too, that what a tribute to not only Donnie, but to Bob and Joan as well, that the church is filled to capacity. It's standing room only. But sorry, there's one more group that I really want to pay tribute to that has amazed me for so many years. And I count it a blessing that my son Mike is a part of that group. But all of these guys back here and all of Donnie's friends, I can tell you from being personally involved with this group, like I said, for many years, these guys will drop anything If one of their group needs something, they are there in a heartbeat. I talked a little bit just to Prunty, and I can't believe just the dedication and the love, the tenderness, and the camaraderie that they have for each other. You know, he said that he got off work in, I think it was Texas. As soon as he got off work, he got into the car and started heading this way. All of these guys and gals that are in this group, I think it started early in Enumclaw here and went on through Auburn Academy, but they are so dedicated to each other, and I just want to remind each one of them what a treasure that is, your friendship. Do not take it for granted, and the older you get, the more you appreciate every friendship that you have.
I'm just going to sit down. Monday women always have something to say. The Monday men don't have a lot to say, so I'll speak for us. But one of the things that whenever I think of Donny, I just think of the friendliest, kindest person. He didn't know a stranger. I remember when I first started dating Mike, I didn't know Donny. He was well ahead of me at Auburn, and so we didn't run in the same circles. And when I first met him, he was so welcoming and made me feel right at home. And I remember going to Vegas with him and Justin and Mike. I kind of crashed a guy's trip, and they were so nice to let me. And we went to a show, and how Donny was, patting giving the doorman extra money to give us the best seat in the house. And he just knew how to make every occasion a little bit more fun and sparkly. And the other thing that I just loved about Donny was I love music as well, and going to concerts is definitely something I enjoy. And I was lucky enough to get to go to see Heart with him, and I have very few concerts that I go to that I don't annoy the people around me with how loud I sing. I didn't have to worry at that concert because Donny was very much louder than me, and it felt really good to be able to not be the one everybody was glaring at.
Anybody else? I want to thank you for all the stories. There's one more here.
So I'm Glenda Hess. My mom and Aunt Joan are sisters. And my mom can't be here, but we got my dad here today. But one of my favorite memories of Donny, and first of all, he was my first cousin. He's between me and Todd, my brother. And I just thought he was the best thing that ever happened for a very long time. And to attest to what Justin said, he was always fun. There was always a good time. I don't remember even fighting, but I'm sure we did, but I don't remember fighting. It was always a good time. But my favorite memory of him that has come to my mind here recently was, if anybody knew my grandmother, she had a prize garden that was huge. And I don't know what possessed us, but a lot of the time the things that Todd and Donny and I did could be described as possessed. I don't know where the ideas came from, but they just did. So on a Sabbath afternoon with a living room full of company, the three of us decided to strip all our clothes off and sit in our underwear and turn on a hose in her garden. And it was the grandest time the three of us had. I mean, mud and hair, just head to toe, and pure joy in mud. That's a thing, I guess, I don't know. I will tell you, I was not the fastest runner. And Todd and Donny could outlap me, and we did laps around the house until I finally got caught. But even getting in trouble is like Justin said, there were pacts, there were things, when we did stuff, it was like, this never happened. It will never be spoken of again. I have distinct memories of running up and down the hallway from Donnie's bedroom to the landing, and that was a huge no because Uncle Bob that was a no-go. You may not know where he was, but as soon as you started the running, you knew where he was. And he's going to be missed. And so many memories of being in your home. And that absolute, again, it's just a joy. He didn't know a stranger. He loved everybody. And also football. I don't play football, but I sure did when we were at his house. Randy and Jeff and Justin and Jill, and a lot of good memories. And we're missing one of our team members right now.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vidal Mendoza, and I'm the pastor in this church. There is something that I don't like in ministry, and is this. These moments are awful. And if ministry was a thing that I can pick and choose, I will not take this at all. Because it's a very sad moment. And a family is missing someone today. And that someone is not just someone, it's someone that it was loved. Someone that was special. Someone that was a good friend. There are moments in life that are very decisive. When you finish a career, when you get married, when you have kids, when you grow old, when you die. There are many moments that human beings face in life. And some of these moments fill us with joy, and others flood us with sadness, and they make us cry. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I grew up listening and hearing from my family and my father, men don't cry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry, and we will learn something today about this moment and what happens when you cry. Every moment that happens in life, every single one, if we face them with a little reflection, trying to see what lessons do we learn, our life can be completely different. They will help us to live in a wiser way and in a much productive. This is a moment of pain. This is a moment of sadness for all of us, but much more for the Shumway family. Much more. Because Donny is not any longer in the midst of them. his body. But we will always remember him. He will be always in our heart. I was able to speak with him twice, just twice. I'm new here in the church for those that might not know. I'm new and I feel privileged. Let me tell you why. Because we start talking with Donny and he told me, man, I like you. I think you're the first pastor I like. So I feel honored, when he said that. He was such a good guy, and I want to see him again. And I will see him again, because he owes me. He told me, Pastor, do you like baseball? I'm like, not really. I like soccer better. And he's like, yeah, I'll take you to the Mariners games. I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, once I get better, we're going to go together to the Mariners game and we're going to have some peanuts and we're going to go there because I like you. Donny, from all the stories I heard today, he was real. And there is a lot of people today that is fake. Donny, he was who he was. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. That was him. That's authentic. That's unique. And these moments where death are very strange to humans, and we don't like them because we were not created for that. We were created to live and not to die. But then sin came, and now death is among us. But this evening, we're going to learn 5 small points, I will say, about death and how we face or how it impacts us and what can we do when that moment comes. Please open your Bible with me in Ecclesiastes, and we're going to go to the chapter number 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. There are Bibles in the front chairs where you're at, or you can Google it, Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and we will read together when we get there. The very first thing that we are going to learn is in the very first verse that says, a good name is better than precious what? Ointment. A good name is better than precious ointment. The kind of person that you are at the time of dying. I was with Joan on Wednesday prayer meeting, and she shared with us one message that she got that night, that very night. The message said that, I don't remember the exact words. It was a very long, kind, and loving message where basically they said that Donny was a huge blessing for the person that sent that message. So Donny right now, his name, the way he was, how he impacted our lives, that's more valuable than ointment. In this way, Solomon is saying that when the end of our days arrives, more important than fame or more important than material possessions or achievements is your character and is who you really are, your name. It doesn't matter who I talk to about Donny. The other day I met Jeff on the hallway, and thank you, Jeff, for everything you have done. And I was talking to him without knowing that was Donny's cousin. And he started to talk to me about Donny, and not just him, but every single one that I talk to, they have something very positive to say about Donny, and something very crazy sometimes as well. He was the kind of guy that I can really be a friend with. I was in the hospital visiting with his mom over there, and Ivy and Randy came, and he was sitting with us, and he had something in his finger. I don't know what it was. It was something that was connected to his finger. But he discovered that every time he pressed it, the thing goes beep, 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 beep. So he started playing with it. And I remember that all of us, we were freaked out, like, what's going on? And I saw him, his finger, he was doing, press it, and then he let it go. But then I asked him, what's going on, John? And she says, Donny, please stop doing that. So it was played. I don't know if it was something connected to his heart or his oxygen. I don't really know what that was. But he made sure that we laugh over there. He made sure that experience in the hospital was unique. And I'm pretty sure that you have way more stories than that. But Donny's name will be always remembered as a great guy. As a great guy. The second point that I want to make is the second part of the first verse that says, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Is better the day of death than the day of one's birth. For a believer, when the end comes, the beginning of an eternal life begins. Because this body is just resting, but the Bible tells us clearly that very soon Jesus will come again. And that very soon Donny will wake up and he will be ready to go to heaven. I remember that I was standing in the hospital and he told me, Pastor, can you please move to this side? And I'm like, why? Yeah, because I don't see with this eye. I can see you better in this position. But when I see him again, he will be able to see completely clear. He will be able to walk with both legs, and his entire body will work completely. And not just him, but you and me as well. We are going to be perfect. So I cannot wait for that day to come. The end of our human life is the beginning of the eternal one. The third point that I want to mention is in the second verse. It says, it's better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart. Better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart. Death breaks into our life in an instant. And sometimes we are not ready. In a blink of an eye, everything can happen. So let me ask you this. if you die today, will you make an impact of those around you like you want it? I can imagine that Donny wanna tells you personally, every single one of you, I love you, and hug you and play with you and tell you how he feels about you, but he can't no more. But you can. And sometimes we don't do it. And we just wait until these days arrive to tell what we loved about someone. I take the opportunity that I have to invite you to love those around you. And if you love someone, tell them, let them know what you feel. If you are mad at someone, let them know, hey, I'm mad with you because of this or because of that. Let them know. You don't know what can happen in the next hour, the next minute. Have you ever thought that one day the person that the commemoration will be about is going to be you? And nobody knows when that will be. Nobody knows. A funeral is a good time to give a twist to our life, to change, to take the decision to be different. So please, when all this is over, we need to have Donny in our heart. But also we need to tell those that we love in life, while they are living, let them know that we love them, that we value them. And if someone is mad at you, ask for forgiveness and say, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry, sister, I'm sorry if I hurt you. Take up the opportunity that you have to make things right. The fourth point that I want to mention is found in the verse 3, and is that the loss of a loved one commits us. Do you love Donny? Let me ask again. Do you love Donny? Yes. I heard one over there. Do you love Donny? Yes. So he wants us to live like we love Donny. What will he tell you today if he sees you crying, or if he sees you the way you are right now? He will do everything he has to bring the better inside of you. He will do it. When a loved one dies, is a moment to commit ourselves. Listen what the verse says. Sorrow is better than laughter. For by a sad countenance the heart is made better. Other versions says it's better to cry than to laugh. Well, it saddens the face, but it's good for the heart. So if you want to cry, cry. It's okay to cry. This is a safe place where you can cry. Don't be afraid. When you cry, you're healing. But if you try to oppress it, a day will come when all that oppression will explode. So it's okay to cry. We can cry because it does hurt us. When we cry, the pain slowly goes away. And something happens. What? I do not know. But when we cry, after we cry, we feel peace. And it's not any peace, but the peace that God gives us. The peace that we will see Him again. The peace that He will take me to a Mariners game in heaven. I don't know, there must be a league in there. And the last point is in verse number 4 and reads like this: the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Where is your heart today? It has to be here. Bob, John, family, friends, church. We can't lose our mind today. We can't. For Donny, we owe it to him. We can't lose our mind. Now more than ever, we have to commit ourselves to see Him again. Do you want to see Him again? I want to. I just spoke with Him twice, and I can tell you, I can spend a whole night talking to Him. He made me think about something. He was honest, right? So I will share something, and please do not share it with nobody. Keep it to yourself. He said, Pastor, I think this is the reason why he liked me. He said, Pastor, what do you believe if I don't come to church? I told him, well, if you come to church, it does not guarantee your salvation. He's like, what? What are you saying? Yeah, if you come to church, it does not guarantee that you will be saved. Pastor, I haven't been in church for years. So are you saying that I can be saved? Yes, sure you can. That's what I believe, he said. Yeah, I like you, man. He started saying, I like you. And we started talking more. And he said, Pastor, do you think that if one friend of yours does something wrong, or he likes something that it is not good for his health, and you know it, but in order for them to hang out with you, you provide it. You don't do it, but you provide it. Do you believe that I am doing something wrong? And I told him, I don't think so. Because you are wanting to testify them about Jesus. And he said, that's exactly right. Donny, he got the second opportunity. And that doesn't happen very often. His heart paused the first time for 28 minutes. And maybe he wasn't ready, but he survived. He was a warrior. And he came back. And everything that I'm telling you, I spoke with him after that happened. And I saw his arm. He had blisters all over his arm. And I asked him, what's that? What's going on? And he said, well, they said that I was fighting. I'm like, how come? you didn't know what was going on. How were you fighting? And they said, yeah, I can understand that as well. Either it's something that I don't know. He was a warrior. And to get victory in life, we have to be warriors. And I want to see Donny again. So why don't we make a commitment with ourselves and with Donny that in order to see him again, we will do whatever we have to do to see him again. We will leave whatever we have to leave. We will drop whatever we have to drop in order to see him again. He told me, I remember the last words, he told me, Pastor, what really matters is that you have a close connection with God. Because if you have a close connection with God, people will see it. And we'll see that you are not fake. We'll see that you are real. And we'll see that your God is real. So I loved the God that Donny presented me. He's a God, the God that I believe in, the God of love, the God that when we are sad, when we are crying, he sits by our side and he tells us, I'm right next to you, son. I'm right next to you, my daughter. Come. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. So let's commit ourselves to see Donny again. May God bless you, everybody.
grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fear relieved. How precious did that grace appear the night I first believed. knows how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
That was Donnie's harmonica that Troy was using to perform that. That was beautiful, Troy. Would everyone bow their heads, please? Heavenly Father, we're all gathered here today to celebrate the gift that you gave us in Donnie. You touched his heart with love that he freely gave to each and every one of us here today, as well as those who aren't able to be here. Lord, when someone's time to depart this earth comes around, there's a lot of different emotions that go with it. Please remind us that through the sadness, there's a direct link to the happiness and love that Donnie brought to all of us. And there's joy in that, and that's what Donnie would want us to remember. Lord, we thank you for the time that we had with Donnie. And we're so grateful that through your sacrifice in Jesus, we'll be able to see his smiling face again and hear his laughter. Father, please continue to comfort Bob and Joan and the entire family that extends throughout all of Donnie's friendships. We thank you for all the blessings that you give us each and every day. All these things we pray in Jesus' name. And everyone said, amen. Time to mingle, share other stories, and just celebrate Donnie like he would want us to do.